"Grandma, don't go to the party." He said it so quietly I almost didn't hear him over the rain tapping the window. 7 years old, hair still damp from his bath, eyes wide with something I didn't yet recognize, terror. I laughed. "Sweetheart, it's just a birthday party. Grandma's 72, not 70 to 100, but his little fingers clutched my wrist. "Please, Grandma, don't go." The clock struck 6. My son, David, was waiting outside, engine running, headlights carving pale tunnels through the mist. The invitation had said family only, a celebration. My name written in gold script on the envelope. I went anyway. When I stepped into that bright suburban living room, I smelled lilacs and buttercream and something else beneath it. Something metallic. The cake sat on the table. 3 tiers, frosted perfectly white, a tiny figurine of me perched on top, smiling, knife in her hand. Everyone clapped. Cameras flashed. David kissed my cheek, and yet every hair on my neck rose when I saw the writing on the cake. "Farewell, Evelyn. You don't live 70 years without learning how people hide cruelty behind politeness." Still, I wasn't prepared for my own family to be the ones smiling while they buried me alive. I was born in 1953, in a small town called Maple Hollow, Kentucky, the kind of place where gossip traveled faster than the mail and everyone knew what pie you baked on Sundays. My parents ran a hardware store. I married young, at 19, to George Miller, a man who could fix anything except his own temper. For 43 years I cooked his dinners, patched his shirts, and kept my head down when the shouting started. He passed into a 1-5 heart attack, sudden, in the garage. I remember the wrench still in his hand. People said, at least he went doing what he loved. I thought, he died holding on to control. Like always, we had one son, David, my boy, my pride, my purpose. He was quiet, bookish, sweet to stray animals. I worked double shifts at the diner so he could go to college. Back then, rent for our little house was $700 a month, and I stretched every dollar till it begged for mercy. When David got his degree in finance, I cried through the whole ceremony. He married Melissa, a pretty nurse with perfect teeth and a laugh that sounded rehearsed. At first, she called me Mom. She brought flowers on Sundays. I thought she was an angel sent to fill our empty spaces. Then George died, and everything shifted. The house went quiet. David started handling my bills. "You shouldn't worry about money, Mom." He had me sign a few things, just paperwork for the insurance. I didn't read them. I trusted him. He was my son. I moved into the small guest house behind their home. It smelled like lavender and paint thinner. Melissa decorated it for me, white curtains, floral quilts, to many candles. I tried to be grateful, but gratitude is hard when you start to feel like a guest in your own life. It began the summer after George's death. I'd gone to withdraw $200 for groceries and the bank teller frowned. "Mrs. Miller, your account was transferred." "Transferred? To where?" "To your son's management fund. Power of attorney authorization." I blinked. Power of what? David explained it that night at dinner. "Mom, you signed it. You remember? When we handled the insurance forms." I didn't remember. He showed me my signature, slanted, shaky, but mine. "Don't worry," he said. "This way I can take care of you. No more late fees, no confusion." He smiled. Melissa refilled my glass of wine. I felt foolish for doubting. Still, something in me stirred, an unease I couldn't name. 2 years later, my grandson Eli started noticing things I tried to ignore. "Grandma," he whispered one night, "Mom says you forget stuff." "Sometimes," I admitted. "But that's what lists are for." "She says you're sick." I laughed. Only sick of her overcooked lasagna, but his little brow furrowed. "She said you're crazy." That word hung between us like a curse. I told myself kids misunderstand. But the next week, Melissa scheduled me a checkup. The doctor asked questions about confusion, about memory lapses. I felt ambushed. "Do you ever feel unsafe?" he asked. "Only when people treat me like I'm not here." When we got home, Melissa scolded me. "You embarrassed me, Evelyn." "I'm trying to help you." Help. That word started to taste like poison. Months passed. I busied myself with crocheting and tending the roses. I tried to ignore the letters arriving in David's name, insurance notices, property assessments. I asked once, and he said, "It's all routine, Mom. Don't stress." Then one Thursday in March, an envelope slid under my door. Gold lettering. Evelyn Miller. Family celebration. Inside was a single line. "Join us Saturday at p.m., a special night for you." I thought maybe they'd planned an early birthday. I baked cookies for Eli and laid out my lavender dress. That's when Eli came running, eyes wet. "Grandma, don't go to the party." After Eli whispered those words, "Don't go to the party," I didn't sleep for 2 nights. I kept hearing the rain, the hum of the refrigerator, the tiny creaks of the old guest house. Everything felt alive with warning. I told myself I was being dramatic. I'd always been the emotional one. That's what George used to say whenever I cried over movies or stray cats. "Too soft-hearted," he'd chuckle. But there's a difference between soft-hearted and blind. When I arrived at the house that Saturday, Melissa met me at the door. Her lipstick was a shade too red. Her perfume hit me before her smile did. "Evelyn, you look beautiful," she chirped. "Come in, everyone's waiting." Everyone. That meant David, of course. Her sister, who never liked me. 2 neighbors I didn't know well. And Eli, who sat on the stairs, pale and silent, clutching his stuffed dinosaur. The cake gleamed under the lights. 3 tears, white as snow. And that tiny figure on top me, holding a knife. I still see it in my dreams. "Farewell, Evelyn." The icing red. I laughed nervously. "What's this? You all sending me somewhere?" Melissa clapped her hands. "Oh, it's just a theme. Don't be morbid. It's a new chapter party. We wanted to surprise you." David smiled, that same calm, practiced smile he used when explaining bills I didn't understand. "A new chapter?" I asked. He nodded. "You'll see, Mom." After dinner, David raised his glass. "To my mother, the strongest woman I know. She's been through so much, and it's time she finally rests." Everyone clapped politely, but his eyes didn't match his words. There was something rehearsed, something hollow. Melissa passed around envelopes. "We all chipped in to help with the move." "Move?" I frowned. David put his arm around me. "Mom, it's nothing bad. You've been saying you're lonely, right? Well, we found a wonderful assisted living place. You'll love it. Lakeside view, daily activities. We already put down the deposit." My fork slipped from my hand. "I never agreed to that." Melissa's smile tightened. "You did, actually. Remember the paperwork you signed last fall?" Paperwork. Again that word. Everyone stared at me. My chest tightened. "I'm not leaving my home," I said quietly. David's hand squeezed my shoulder too hard. "Mom, it's done. The house was transferred. You'll be safer there." Safer. Another poisoned word. Eli's eyes met mine across the table. His lips moved soundlessly. "Don't go." That night I cried harder than I had in years. Not from sadness, from shame. Shame that I'd trusted my own blood enough to sign my life away. The next morning, I called the bank again. The woman on the line spoke gently, like she was talking to a child. "Yes, Mrs. Miller, your son is listed as your financial guardian. Any changes must be approved through his office." Guardian? That was the word they used for people who couldn't think for themselves. I hung up and sat staring at my trembling hands. Maybe they were right. Maybe I was getting forgetful. I'd lost keys, burned toast, mixed up dates before. Maybe this was for my own good, but every instinct screamed no. The next weeks were a blur of confusion and half-truths. Melissa stopped knocking before entering the guest house. She'd stride in with her clipboard, all smiles. "Medication check, Evelyn. Have you been taking these?" They weren't mine. The labels read sertraline and donepezil. One for depression, one for memory loss. "I don't need these," I said. "Doctor's orders," she replied. "David said you've been getting agitated." Agitated. They were rewriting me like a character in their own play. When I tried to call my old friend Ruth, the phone line was dead. My cell charger went missing. My mail was redirected for convenience. One morning, I found a new camera installed in the guest house for safety. They said. I started keeping a notebook. Every conversation, every date, every receipt. If I was going crazy, I wanted proof of what kind. It started with small things. A missing heirloom ring. A car insurance bill that didn't match my records. I confronted David one evening. Did you take money from my account for the mortgage? He sighed, weary. Mom, you're confused again. You gave permission, remember? No, I don't. Then maybe you should start writing things down. I just didn't tell him. Melissa began telling neighbors I had episodes. I overheard her at the fence once. She forgets where she is sometimes, she whispered. Poor thing. We're doing our best. I wanted to scream, you liar. But my voice caught in my throat. I still had one lifeline. A dusty folder from George's old insurance agent. Inside was the contact for Henry Wallace, the lawyer who'd handled our will. I took the bus into town, my heart pounding like I was committing a crime. Henry was in his 70s too. Kind eyes behind thick glasses, Mrs. Miller, he said, standing to shake my hand. It's been a while. I told him everything. The party, the signatures, the move. He frowned. Do you have copies of the documents you signed? No, my son kept them. He nodded slowly. You said the power of attorney was granted in 2016? Yes, he typed something into his computer. Then his face changed. Evelyn, this was refiled last year. Your signature appears on a second version, notarized without your presence. My stomach dropped. So it's forged? Or coerced? Either way, it's serious. I felt dizzy. Can we undo it? He sighed. If you can prove you were of sound mind when you signed or didn't sign at all, that means medical records, witnesses, anything. I left his office clutching a list of things to gather, like breadcrumbs leading out of the dark. When I got home, Melissa was waiting on the porch, arms crossed. Where were you? I lied. The library. She smiled without warmth. Next time, tell us first. We worry. That night, I heard David whispering in the kitchen. She's starting to ask questions, he said. Melissa replied. Then we accelerate. Friday, right? The facility's expecting her. Friday. My deadline. That gave me 5 days. I barely slept. My mind spun between fury and confusion. Maybe I was imagining things. Maybe Henry was mistaken. I looked at myself in the mirror, tired eyes, thinning hair, lines carved deep by years of quiet endurance. Maybe I really am losing it, I whispered. But then Eli slipped me a drawing the next morning. It showed a stick figure grandma locked behind a fence, and a little boy holding a key. He'd written, I'll help you. My throat closed up. I wasn't crazy. Wednesday night. I tried to confront David calmly. Son, I said, sitting at the kitchen table, I went to see Henry Wallace. He says the power of attorney papers were changed. His jaw tightened. Mom, you shouldn't be talking to anyone about private matters. You're confused, am I? He leaned closer, voice low. Stop making this difficult. You're going to Shady Pines on Friday, and that's final, against my will? He laughed, short and cruel. You signed it, Mom. You don't even remember. That's the point. Melissa placed a hand on his arm. Let's not upset her, honey. She's fragile. I felt something in me harden. Fragile was the word they used to crush you without guilt. I went back to my guest house, locked the door, and opened the notebook. I wrote one line in shaky letters. If I disappear, it wasn't my choice. I had 2 days. Thursday morning, I caught the mailman and asked quietly if any letters had been redirected from my address. He hesitated. Yes, ma'am. They asked to forward to your son's P.O. box last month. He scribbled it down for me. At the library, I used the public computer to print copies of every transaction I could find online. My bank account was nearly empty, withdrawals of $25,000 labeled facility deposit. Friday's deadline. I needed evidence, something undeniable. That night, Eli came to my guest house, tiptoeing like a spy. Grandma, he whispered. I took this from Dad's office. It was a small silver USB drive. What's on it? I asked. I don't know. He told Mom not to delete it until Friday. My hands shook as I plugged it into my old laptop. There were recordings, hidden audio files labeled by dates. The first one started with my voice. I just want to make sure everything's in order, I said, nervous, polite. David's voice replied, just sign here, Mom. You trust me, right? Then another clip, Melissa's voice this time. If she's declared unfit, the insurance releases immediately. Unfit. Insurance, my breath caught. They weren't just stealing from me. They were preparing to have me declared mentally incompetent. When I woke up, there was a knock at the door. 2 men in medical uniforms stood outside. Mrs. Miller? We're here for your transfer to Shady Pines. I smiled. Just a minute, dear. Then I called Henry Wallace's office. It's happening today, I whispered. He said, stay calm, Mrs. Miller. Do not sign anything. I'm on my way. While I waited, I copied the files from the USB to an old SD card and slipped it inside my sweater. Melissa barged in moments later, voice syrupy sweet. Evelyn, don't make this harder than it needs to be. David followed, expression stone. You'll thank us later. I doubt it, I said. Henry arrived just in time, a storm behind him. Mr. Miller, I advise you to stop this now. Any forced relocation without consent is kidnapping. David's face drained of color. Stay out of this, he snapped. Henry handed me a folder. Mrs. Miller, here are copies of the forged documents. We'll be filing immediately. For the first time in months, I felt safe, or at least seen. That night, the house was silent. David and Melissa didn't speak to me. Eli stayed close, like a little guardian angel. I sat on the porch watching the fireflies and thought of George. How many times had I silenced myself for the sake of peace? Never again. After Henry left that night, I sat by the window until dawn. The stars looked like tiny pinholes in a sheet of dark cloth, and I wondered if that was what truth looked like, light leaking through lies. I had the USB. I had my notebook, but I needed more. Proof wasn't proof until someone else saw it. Henry called the next morning. Evelyn, I've filed a preliminary injunction. They can't touch your accounts until Friday. But we need solid evidence of intent. Intent to do what? To defraud you or worse. He hesitated. You mentioned medications? Yes, keep one of the bottles. Bring it here tomorrow. I hung up and went to the medicine cabinet. 2 orange bottles set neatly side by side. I slipped one into my purse and left the cap loose so Melissa wouldn't notice. When she came by later, she frowned. You didn't take your pills? I forgot, I lied. She gave that same smile. You forget a lot lately. The next day, I took the bottle to the pharmacist downtown. Can you tell me what this is? I asked. He scanned the label. Donepezil. But this dosage 10 mg twice daily is high. Who prescribed this? I pointed to the doctor's name. Dr. Crawford. He squinted. That's odd. He retired last year. A cold wave crawled up my spine. So this label is fake? Looks like someone reused an old template. I thanked him, tucked the bottle back, and walked out into the sun feeling like the ground had tilted. Henry suggested I hire a private investigator. Someone discreet, he said. We'll need surveillance to corroborate your claims. That's how I met Marta Delaney, mid-40s, sharp eyes, coffee-stained smile. She didn't treat me like a doddering old lady. She listened. Let's start simple, she said. I'll install a nanny cam in your guest house. Audio too. That night she came with a small device disguised as a photo frame. Just act normal, she told me. I'll collect the footage every 3 days. I placed the frame on the mantel beside George's photo. It felt like both of them were watching now. 3 days later, Marta returned with a grim expression. You need to hear this. She played the recording on her tablet, Melissa's voice. If we give her the full dosage, she'll start slurring again by the weekend. Then Dr. Blake signs off and we move forward. David, and the payout. Melissa, policy matures once she's declared incapacitated. $250,000 split between us. I covered my mouth. They were poisoning me, Marta nodded slowly. Or sedating you enough to fail the cognitive tests. I felt sick. Can we take this to the police? Not yet. We need chain of custody proof. Keep playing along. Playing along meant pretending not to know they were trying to erase me. Henry called again. Their attorney's filing to finalize the guardianship hearing in 2 weeks. We'll need medical evidence that you are of sound mind, so I scheduled an independent evaluation. Dr. Liu, a neurologist across town, ran memory tests, puzzles, recall sequences. You're sharper than most 50-year-olds, she said, smiling. Why the referral? I told her everything. She frowned. Bring me the medication list. I'll test the contents. When the results came back, they confirmed it. Traces of lorazepam mixed into my vitamins enough to cause confusion and slurred speech. That was my smoking gun. Marta compiled everything. Forged prescription labels, audio recordings, lab results, bank statements. She sealed them on a USB labeled Exhibit A. Keep this somewhere they'll never look, she said. I hid it inside George's old wrench box. He would have liked that justice disguised as a tool. A week later, an envelope appeared under my door. No return address. Inside, a single sentence typed in bold. They know you know. I called Marta. They're panicking, she said. Don't meet them alone, but isolation was their weapon. They started locking the side gate, cutting the Wi-Fi, keeping Eli upstairs for homework. I survived on stubbornness and canned soup. I'd been alone before. I could be again. Melissa came by with tea. Peace offering, she said. We've all been stressed. I watched the steam curl from the cup. You drink first. Her eyes flickered, but she smiled and took a sip. Satisfied? Yes, I said, though my heart hammered. She sat down, folded her hands. Why are you doing this, Evelyn? Why make everything ugly? We're family. Family doesn't drug each other, I said. Her face hardened. You should rest. I smiled thinly. Oh, I will. In court 2 weeks later, the Maple County Courthouse smelled of floor polish and fear. I sat beside Henry, clutching my notebook. Across the aisle, David and Melissa whispered with their lawyer, the judge. An older woman with steel gray hair called the hearing to order. Case #22-471B, a guardianship of Evelyn Miller. Their attorney spoke first. Your Honor, our clients seek guardianship due to Mrs. Miller's cognitive decline and erratic behavior. He presented forged doctor's notes, videos of me trembling, side effects of their own drugs, and bank statements they'd managed. When he finished, the judge turned to Henry. Counsel? Henry rose calmly. Your Honor, we have evidence of coercion, forgery, and attempted financial exploitation. He handed over a flash drive. The courtroom fell silent as the recordings played. Melissa, if she's declared unfit, the insurance releases immediately. David, then the house is ours. Gasps rippled through the spectators. Even the judge's pen stopped moving. Melissa jumped up. Those are fake. Edited. Henry smiled. Your Honor, we have timestamps, metadata, and witness verification from a licensed investigator. Then Dr. Liu took the stand, explaining the sedatives found in my vitamins. Mrs. Miller's confusion was chemically induced. I looked at my son. His eyes darted everywhere but mine. When it was my turn, I stood, gripping the railing. I may be old, I said, my voice shaking, but I am not senile. I am not crazy. I am your mother, and I know what you did. Melissa hissed. Sit down, you old enough. The judge barked. One more outburst and you will be removed. Henry closed with quiet force. The true incapacity here, Your Honor, is moral. The judge's gavel struck. Petition denied. Criminal investigation to proceed immediately. Police escorted David and Melissa out in handcuffs. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. Eli cried, reaching for me. It's okay, sweetheart, I whispered. It's over, but inside I knew it wasn't. Justice isn't clean. It drags pieces of you with it. The house felt haunted. Every photo, every curtain carried their fingerprints. I packed my few things into 2 suitcases. Eli knocked softly. Grandma, will they go to jail? Yes, I said. For a while, he nodded solemnly. Can I visit you? Always. He hugged me so tightly I felt my heart crack and mend at the same time. A week later, the Maple Hollow Gazette headline read, "Local couple charged with elder abuse and insurance fraud." Beneath it, my photo me in the courthouse hallway, eyes tired but alive. Underneath, Evelyn Miller, 72, fought back. I stared at that headline for a long time. I wasn't just a victim anymore. I was a survivor with a name. 2 months later came the criminal trial. The prosecutor used Marta's recordings and Dr. Lee's report. The defense tried to claim misunderstanding, but when the jury heard Melissa laughing about the full dosage, the verdict was sealed, guilty on all counts. 5 years each. As they were led away, David finally looked at me. I just wanted what was mine, he said. What was yours? I whispered. My life? He turned his face down, and I felt the last thread between us snap. I moved into a small cottage near the lake, $900 a month, but mine, in my name. Henry helped transfer the deed back. Marta visited sometimes. We shared coffee on the porch, laughing like war veterans. Eli came on weekends. We planted roses together the same color as the ones I once grew behind the guest house. Grandma, he said once, are you sad about Dad? I thought for a long time. I'm sad he forgot who he was. But I'm not sad, I remembered who I am. The nights are quiet now. No cameras, no whispers. Just the crickets and the hum of my old radio. Sometimes I still doubt myself, was I too harsh? Too cold? But then I touch the scar on my wrist where his hand once squeezed too hard, and I know. Mercy doesn't mean blindness. Every few months a letter arrives from David. The first begged forgiveness. The second blamed Melissa. The third simply said, I'm sorry, I haven't replied. Maybe one day I will, when apology feels like truth and not strategy. Eli sends drawings instead, me and him fishing, or baking, or just sitting under a tree. Those are the letters that matter. I joined a book club, learned how to paint, started walking every morning. People wave. I wave back. Freedom doesn't come roaring. It comes quietly, like morning light creeping through curtains you finally dared to open. Sometimes, late at night, I replay everything. The party, the cake, the words farewell Evelyn, they wanted me gone. And for a while, they almost succeeded. But here I am 73 years old, still standing, still breathing, still writing. I've learned that evil doesn't always come with knives or screams. Sometimes it wears a smile and calls you mom, and I've learned that strength doesn't mean never being afraid. It means acting even when your hands shake. True family isn't bound by blood, it's bound by love, honesty, respect. Eli proved that to me. So did Henry and Marta. I used to think old age meant fading. Now I see it differently. Age is armor. It's every scar turned into a lesson. It's every betrayal turned into wisdom. Last week Eli and I baked a small cake, chocolate with white frosting. He wrote an icing. Welcome home, Grandma. We laughed until the tears came. Then he whispered the same words that began it all, only this time they meant something different. Grandma, he said, don't go, and I promised him, I'm not going anywhere. That's my story, my confession, my warning. If you're listening, and you've ever felt that uneasy tug in your gut when someone says, you're imagining things, trust that feeling. You're not crazy. You're being silenced. Old age is not weakness. It is truth accumulated and sharpened. And to anyone who's ever been betrayed by their own blood, remember, you can still choose your family. You can still choose yourself. So tell me, what would you have done if your grandson whispered, don't go to the party? Would you have listened? If this story moved you, share it, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more real voices that refuse to be erased. Because silence protects the guilty, but stories save the rest of us.